Welcome in, everybody. Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. Happy Wednesday. We're happy to be with you. I'm Alex White, filling in for Geoff Parles at the desk. We have Matt Neverett. He wears many hats. Voice of the Aviators, voice of the UNLV football. And he kind of switches chairs in here, too. But happy that you can co-host with me here today.
Happy to be here. I'll be on with Frank Nicotero later for Punchlines. Maybe that's why my back hurts so bad. I've just been sitting in so many different chairs recently.
I thought you were going to say you were carrying the team.
No, maybe. No, I'm certainly not carrying. If I'm carrying the team, then we're in trouble.
I will actually be there with Matt and Frank today.
Yeah.
So you get 2 hours of Matt and I here. We're going to start off a little bit talking about minor league because both of us work for the Aviators. Yesterday was a lot of fun. We had Max Muncy on the Dodgers making a rehab appearance for AAA Dodger team. And we have a Max Muncy on the Aviators as well.
It might have been the only time that former MLB All-Star and World Series champion Max Muncy has been known as the other Max Muncy. That's kind of what we've been calling him all year. And the Max Muncy that is on the Aviators, we're still trying to find a way to differentiate that on the air versus which Max Muncy we're talking about. But the younger of the two Max Muncys, 21 versus 33, outdueled the older Max Muncy last night, 4 for 4 with a couple of doubles and a trio of runs batted in. It was OKC that got the last laugh in a 10-8 win, but it was good to see a couple of Major League rehabbers for OKC as well. Tommy Edman, who was traded from the Cardinals to the Dodgers in that three-way deal at the deadline, making his first couple of outings with the Oklahoma City Baseball Club, as they're known for this year. A lovely copyright dispute there. But yeah, really, really interesting to see. And there's a lot of weird similarities between the two Max Muncys. Two guys that are not related and had never met before last night.
Including born on the same day.
Yeah, August 25th, so coming right up. The other weird one, too, our Max Muncy told me this one earlier in the year, and it's one that I hadn't thought about. So the other Max Muncy, the older Max Muncy, will say, born in Midland, Texas, now lives in L.A. playing for the Dodgers. The younger Max Muncy, from L.A., played a year and a half in Midland, Texas as a Double-A affiliate for the A's. So just a lot of weird similarities, and it's not the first time the Aviators have had a guy with the same name as another player, not related. Yeah. Remember the Brady Feigl debacle a couple years ago?
I do.
That one was weird, too, because both of those dudes were 6'5", red hair and glasses. Those are really differentiating features for most people, but not those two.
It's a lot of fun, and we're going to talk about this more, so this is a little tease to stick around for Punchlines. Remember, separate YouTube channel, though, Punchlines FN. Make sure you go there and subscribe to them. Speaking of new pages and stuff, Sports by the Book has new social medias. We're going to show that right now at Sports by the Book. On most of the social media, Instagram, we did add a little LV there, so at Sports by the Book LV. Please give those a follow. Soon we will be doing our broadcast, not just on our South Point Studio YouTube channel, but over there at Sports by the Book. So we've got a lot to talk about with that and baseball. Of course, we have our That's Crazy. Anything else we can tease for Punchlines? So I'll probably forget at the end of the show. So we'll get it out of the way now.
A comedy clip of the day. We got our picks at 12:36. We got a lovely guest today. So I think that's really the highlight of the show. You'll be joining us here at noon. In the Mojave Desert, as Frank likes to say. And
I took a week off, last week, because Denny Nagel was here, and if Denny Nagel's in town, he gets the seat.
I even got bumped. I was there. I'm supposed to come on Tuesdays. Greg Vaughn and Denny Nagel. I think we'll take some Major League All-Stars over little old me on that day.
Agreed. So if you missed those, too, you can always find those on the YouTube channels. Make sure and go back and check those out. And a lot of great clips. Looking forward to today's slate. Now, Matt, we came up with a few good names, but I think we're just going to keep it very generic here. Avoiding the sweep day. 8 teams are trying to avoid the sweep. That means, of course, 8 teams are trying to complete their 3-game sweep here. I don't remember a day where we've had this many.
Yeah, really, with the way that the schedule cracks down, there are not a lot of series, at least at this time of the year, where they all end on the same day. Now, coming out of the All-Star break, we're still close enough where a lot of the schedules are kind of in sync. As you get more towards the end of the year, you start to see them kind of get a little wonky, and then it all kind of regulates towards the last day of the regular season. Everybody playing at the same time on game 162, which was a great change, even though there's a great documentary about that 162nd game where the Rays walked it off with that Evan Longoria home run, bouncing the Red Sox and Bobby Valentine out of a job. But game 162 is where it all kind of ends up and all the schedules normalize. But yeah, as of right now, it's a weird kind of scheduling quirk, we'll say. It's a good quirk for us. Plenty of games today, and a lot of them mean something to these teams. Is that a storyline that you kind of buy into, when you adjust your numbers? Obviously, you're very numbers-driven. It's worked out for you and your family as well. But is that something that you take into account when you're making your lines for days like today?
Yes, it is. I'm glad you brought that up. So really we're going to go through every game, but looking at those 8, you're adding 20 to 25 cents to the team that is trying to avoid the sweep. But on the flip side, take the Houston Astros for one. Winning streaks also are getting added money or, change here for their line. So that kind of outbalances it. So Astros already got 35 cents their way, being more of a favorite. And then you're kind of adding 20 cents the other way. So we'll go through each game and see which team's really playing for something, trying to avoid like the Pirates, for instance, who will be one of our first teams that we talk about avoiding the sweep. But it's interesting. And then there's 2 games that just have 2-game series, so they're not included. 2 of these are 4-game series. So I do find it very interesting that 8 of these.
Especially the 4-game series. Yeah, going for the sweep in the 4-game series really, really tough at this time of the year.
Yeah, it is. We'll get to those here soon, but they still have a 4th game tomorrow we'll be talking about there. But let's start it off. Colorado Rockies and Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks have won the first 2. So here's one right off the bat, Matt. Now, Diamondbacks minus 185 here at the South Point. Total sitting at 9. I will say, we've got Jordan Montgomery on the mound, and first glance, it looks like an overplay, but I think he has played better than what his numbers show and what we are giving him credit for. Phillies last week, he went 5 scoreless innings before giving up 4 in the 6th. So I was watching that game, and though it was a scoreless game up until the 6th inning. So I think he's been better than we are giving him credit for, what his numbers really show. I still don't know if I want to lay that price here against this Rockies team.
Yeah, the Rockies are one of those crapshoot teams you never really know. And Montgomery really has started around into form after signing a little bit late. And by the way, did you see the jerseys that the D-backs were wearing yesterday? They're Serpientes City Connect.
So is this a different City Connect, or that's what they've had?
That's what they've had, but they added the pants this year.
Okay.
Kind of a tan number, khaki on khaki, if you will. But this Diamondbacks team, as plucky as they have been over the last 2 years, they just kind of find ways to win games, whether it's a little line drive, bloop single down the line and left like they had last night to take the lead for good. This is just a really hard team to handicap because they just find ways to win. You got guys like Jock Peterson who turn pop fly outs into foul ground into home runs if you give them the chance. It's a team that takes advantage of opportunities on the offensive side. And for the pitching, they need to be just good enough. 84 wins was good enough to get them into the playoffs last year. And they were the team with the second least amount of wins ever to make it to the World Series. So it's a team that doesn't necessarily have to have the regular season success. I'm looking right now. One shop's got them at 20-1 to win the World Series. And in the National League, where that all of a sudden the NL West is a 3-4 horse race, they're 9-1 to win the National League. So some of the books starting to kind of catch up to the luck and the team atmosphere of this Diamondbacks team overall. 9-1
is at best. Yesterday on the show, I actually brought up, I saw a 12-1.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you can get that, that's the play. I mean, I'm looking Dodgers right now at plus 170. Other teams in that division, the Padres at plus 750, the D-backs at 9-1. And then the Giants at 80-1. This is to win the National League. But, all of a sudden, this NL West really, really getting tight.
Nothing for me in this game specifically. I would lean to the Diamondbacks and keeping that hot streak going. But then I feel like you'd have to jump in on that run line, get that plus 105.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Going to the Pittsburgh Pirates and the San Diego Padres. Man, the Pirates are really trying to turn it around here, stop their losing streak. Padres take the first 2, and they are the favorite here. But this number has been jumping all over since we've got here this morning. Right now, San Diego minus 131, total 8, juice to the over minus 120.
Yeah, and the Pirates in a free fall right now. I mean, they had an opportunity to come out of the All-Star break and take advantage of some NL West opponents, but then they lost 8 out of 9. They're in last place in the NL Central, and all of a sudden the sky is falling in Pittsburgh. It's unfortunate, and they're really, really struggling to get it going on both sides of the ball. All season long, it had been the pitching carrying them,
right,
and the offense really struggling. Well, the offense is still continuing to struggle as they really kind of mix and match at a couple different positions, including center field and catcher. Brian De La Cruz, who was their big trade acquisition along with IKF at the trade deadline, but De La Cruz has the worst OPS of any position player traded at the deadline. So as of now, small sample size, that trade looking like a bust. They really, really need some offense from anybody that they can get. A 3-0 loss yesterday to Michael King. Before the game, the play-by-play announcers, Greg Brown and John Wayne, are on TV, were trying to induce some voodoo magic on the air. If you get a chance to look up their pregame show yesterday, they were like rolling dice and wearing visors and trying to gamble their way into a win. It was really something. They are very unique. I know those guys pretty well. The Pirates, very indicative of what's going on there. They're just trying to find a way to get it going.
Now, I imagine you know these pitchers very well, too. I mean, we've got Mitch Keller, which if the Pirates are going to win a game, I would say it would be with him or Skeens, of course, on the mound. So you're getting plus money with him. On the flip side, we've got Martin Perez playing against his old team.
Yeah.
So he has not done great since he has been with the Padres, but due factor ERA says that he should throw a very good game today.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not a huge motivation factor there. He was only a Pirate for parts of one season, I think. But Mitch Keller is the ace, if you will. I mean, Paul Skeens gets all the credit. Jared Jones is as good as it gets as he comes back from an injury as well. But Mitch Keller is the leader of that team, an all-star now for the second time. And if they are going to stop this skid, this is the guy to do it. Every team has a stopper, so to speak. And for the Pirates, it has been Mitch Keller this year. They have not supported Skeens offensively in the way that they have for Keller. Not a personal affront, but just the way that the cookie has crumbled, so to speak. Keller is the stopper, and he's going to get the opportunity today. The Pirates need a win. I mean, it's never a must-win game here in mid to late August, but they're getting to the point now where they just got to find a way to stop the skid so they can get a little bit of positive momentum going. Any kind of positive momentum going would be just fine at this point.
Lost 9 in a row here, but still I do lean towards the Pirates here with Mitch Keller on the mound and getting that plus money. Moving to the Miami Marlins and the Phillies. Now, this is just game 2 for these two, but the Marlins took game 1, shut out 5-0 over the Phillies. They have lost 4 in a row now. They need to kind of turn things around as well. Philadelphia minus 175 at home, total 9. Another 9 under, minus 115.
And the Phillies have been sliding. How about that?
Yes.
Watching them have a precipitous fall off from where they were and still be in first place tells you about how big of a lead they had going into the All-Star break. And yeah, this has been a really, really rough month of August outside of a 3-game win streak against the Dodgers and the D-backs. For the Phillies, they're a team that's going to be all right. I'm not too worried about them come playoff time, and we'll talk a little bit later about our preseason win totals. They were a team that I bet over 90. I think that's looking pretty good right now. They're in the mid-60s at this point of the season, doing just fine. This is a game against Miami that they really, really need as well. Similar to the Pirates, a little bit of a different spot than the Pirates, but similar in the sense that they just got to get some momentum going. And with the Phillies, they're a wagon. When they really, really get rolling, they can rattle off win after win after win, mostly with the offense, but also with the pitching. Zach Wheeler, who's been a fantasy stud for me this year, it really, really kind of has the inside track. It's him and Chris Sale as far as the NL Cy Young race, with Paul Skeens kind of fading. Yesterday, Frank was trying to tell me that Paul Skeens was fading in the Rookie of the Year as well. I'm like, all right, Frank, I think you're good on that. If you're good on anything, it's that. But the Phillies yesterday, 5-0 loss against the Marlins. I think they are going to take that personally and come out really, really hungry today against this Marlins team that lost a couple of their best players in Jazz Chisholm, Brian De La Cruz. They made a couple other moves at the deadline. Josh Bell also let go. And all of a sudden, they're just fine. They might even be better off.
I know. It is weird to see that.
It's all the young guns. And, Edward Cabrera, who was a former top prospect for the Marlins, going today. I think he gets knocked around. I think Philadelphia really, really takes it to him and takes it personally at home, because that's a team that definitely does. They've got the hometown crowd behind them. But that's what you get in Philadelphia. Maybe not throwing batteries at Santa Claus like they used to, but still just as passionate.
Coming up next, St. Louis Cardinals trying to avoid the sweep here against the Cincinnati Reds. It's funny you brought up the Pirates now being 5th in that division, and that's because Cincinnati's been playing really good baseball as of late. So today, we do have the Cardinals as a small favorite, unless that just flipped on me. Let me check that. But, yeah, they're just a minus 110, so basically a pick 'em here. Total 9.5 to the under, minus 120. Anything in this one? Do you trust the Cardinals to avoid the sweep here against the Reds?
I think so. Kyle Gibson going for the Redbirds today against Emilio Pagan, who was just recently added into that rotation. The Reds, a young team. They're the youngest team in Major League Baseball on opening day as far as the starting lineup. And Elly De La Cruz, despite all the errors, despite all the missteps, still killing it. He's going to be forever a volume numbers guy. Tons of steals, tons of home runs, tons of walks, tons of strikeouts, tons of times getting caught stealing. So you're going to take the good with the bad when you're looking at Elly De La Cruz, and all of a sudden sneaking up into the National League Cy Young race. I don't think he's going to win. I'm seeing a shop that's got him at 60-1 with Bryce Harper at 40-1. How about Ketel Marte, the second betting favorite right now in the National League at plus 750. It's going to be Shohei Ohtani, but you're starting to see the numbers respect Ellie De La Cruz and the Reds a little bit more, and they're a team that made a couple of small, really not that noticeable moves at the deadline, but have made a real impact in the bats as well. But yeah, this team lives and dies by Ellie De La Cruz, and playing in Cincinnati, it is a bandbox there. Really, really small stadium there up on the river at Great American. But in a divisional game, the Cardinals, with as much veteran experience as anybody in Major League Baseball, we're kind of talking opposite rosters here with the young guys versus the old bucks.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Kyle Gibson. I'm going to go with the Cardinals today as a slight favorite. You may want to wait. If the line's going to flip, and we think that the money's going to come in on Cincinnati, maybe think about waiting a little bit and taking a look at the Cardinals. This game doesn't kick off until 3:40 here on the West Coast.
I'm with you. It would definitely be a bet on the Cardinals here to avoid the sweep. Surprising, they made some moves, and they're still kind of just stuck in that same inconsistent spot, though, right? I really thought with their additions and the pitching that they would go on a nice win streak here, but we haven't seen it quite yet.
Not necessarily. And Eric Fetty hasn't necessarily had an Eric Fetty-esque start, at least one that we're used to over the last couple of years. Former Rebel here from UNLV, guy that we follow closely. Guy that your dad, I didn't know how close your dad was with him until he talked about him yesterday.
Well, he was my brother's year.
Yeah, he was
so
your
they
brother's
played
age.
a solid 3 years together.
Oh, wow.
There
Okay,
at
so they played
UNLV.
together.
And then, I believe they got drafted that same year.
He knows him well.
Yes.
And for those that don't know, Alex's brother, professional baseball player, where is he playing this year?
He actually just retired. So
Really?
he played for the Quebec Montreals for a good 3 years.
Yeah, Can-Am League, right? Should be.
I don't know that.
I know.
We'll
I know a
check.
couple of guys that played in that league. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just last year was his last year. They won. He's going to get his ring there. But yeah, he's officially retired.
He pulled a John Elway, left on top.
Yeah, that's right.
Good for him.
Yes.
That is awesome. But back to Eric Fetty. I'll be interested to see what he does down the back half of the year. This Cardinals team, like I said, laden with experience, both in the pitching staff and in the batting lineup. So he's going to get some great coaching, not only from the coaching staff, but from his fellow rotation members and bullpen arms. Which
can be very beneficial, especially when you're coming from a team like the White Sox, who hung it up pretty early in the season.
Miguel Vargas, after being traded from the Dodgers to the White Sox, looking pretty upset about it. So I think he understands your pain.
We're going to a 4-game series here. Dodgers in Milwaukee. Dodgers take the first two. Game 1, they won 5-2. Game 2, 7-2. So this team is definitely coming into form, looking healthy again. As far as I know, Walker Buehler is coming back, making his first start since June here. Right now, though, they're just a small favorite on the road. Minus 114. 9 is the total in this one as well. Juice to the under, minus 115.
And ho-hum, here comes all the Dodgers pitchers back from injury. We all knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time before they really started to get everybody healthy. They've had more injuries than anybody in Major League Baseball, and they're still in a division lead here on August the 14th. They're doing all right, and they're really starting to get some of their power arms back. Now, the loss of Dustin May, I think, is going to make a bigger impact than a lot of people think, especially in a playoff series, pitching out of the bullpen. But getting Walker Buehler back, getting Clayton Kershaw back into form, rounding in towards the end of the season is going to be huge. And yeah, for Walker Buehler making his first start since the 18th, 18th of June, he made 3 outings in June, went back down to the minor leagues, working on a couple of things, just trying to be 100%. That's where Walker Buehler is at this point in his career. You know, he's not necessarily fine-tuning anything. He's making sure that his body is good to go. He's been throwing for long enough, consistently enough now where he kind of sets his own schedule. And, all of a sudden, like I said, ho-hum, here come the Dodgers pitchers all back from injury. And he had a couple of dominant minor league rehab outings, which, as we've seen, is not always the case. I'm always interested to see major league arms when they come and rehab against even, a lot of times they'll send them to low A because of the travel, make it a little bit easier. The A's will send a lot of guys to Stockton if the Aviators are playing on the road somewhere in Texas or whatever. But it's always interesting to see the pitchers and how they throw in rehab games because the batter's approach absolutely changes depending on the arm. You'll see a lot more aggression early in at-bats. Guys don't want to get, hung out to dry by a 2-2 curveball from Clayton Kershaw in AAA. So you'll see a lot more of aggressive of an approach. And hey, you got a 19-year-old leadoff hitter getting a chance to go up against Clayton Kershaw. He's probably going to swing at the first fastball he sees. That's what we saw a lot of with Walker Buehler. He was able to take advantage of that. So I think that he's really, really starting to become much smarter of a pitcher. Not that he was ever bad in that regard, but as he becomes a veteran, all of a sudden Walker Buehler, 30 years old, that's ancient. That's how old I just turned. I think he's going to be all right, and he's really, really going to be the big impact arm that the Dodgers need going into the playoffs.
I know both of these teams have great offenses, especially when they're clicking, but 9 here with him on the mound and then Frankie Montez on the other side. I like this under a lot.
I do too.
And Montez has done well. I mean, the Brewers have won both games that he has started since coming over from Cincinnati. 6 earned runs in 9 innings pitched. So I think we could have a low-scoring game here.
I like it. And I mean, in the next game, just to compare the totals, this one 9 between the Dodgers and Milwaukee. And I know that there's a ballpark factor in San Francisco, talking about the Braves and the Giants. That one is at 8 with Grant Holmes and Robbie Ray on the hill. Now, I love Grant Holmes, former Aviator, Kenny Powers lookalike contest winner. I think that's a low total. I'm mainly just bringing that up to juxtapose the two totals. I think Buehler and Montas, I love under 9.
I'm with you. I love that too. And then looking at the next one, you're right. I would lean to the over here. I was excited to have you on the desk here to talk about Grant Holmes and the switch that we have seen from him being a closer for the Las Vegas Aviators to now actually starting games for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, and when he made his first outing with the Braves in a start, I think it was 2 weeks ago, it was his first ever Major League start, but the Braves seeing something in him that they like. They like the fastball in the upper 90s. That's not hard to see. You normally see it the other way, though. You get a dominant starter turn closer a la Eric Gagne. You don't see it the other way. Like a guy like Jack Flaherty who did close but is now back in what for him is a more familiar starting role. You'll see guys go one way and the other, never really back. You don't see a starter go to reliever then to back, and Garrett Crochet kind of doing that a little bit with the White Sox. But yeah, Grant Holmes, if you get a chance to look him up, I know you know what he looks like. Literally Kenny Powers looking.
No, that was a great comparison.
And he's a good dude too. We got a chance to know him a little bit. He's not the only former Aviator arm that the Braves have in their starting rotation. How about Parker Dunshee?
That's right.
Good for him. One of the nicest guys I've ever had the chance to meet in minor league baseball. Fully bilingual. You don't see that out of too many guys from the middle of nowhere in Indiana. And the Braves are taking other teams' scraps, we'll say, and turning them into gems. We've seen some teams do that. The Rays have a proclivity for that. They do that all the time, turning other guys' junk into their treasure. But I don't know. The Braves interesting right now. They're kind of sliding the bats. Were they buying at the deadline? Were they selling at the deadline? They got rid of Jorge Soler, or they picked up Jorge Soler rather, but they got rid of Luke Jackson. Just a weird kind of feel right now with the Braves. I don't know kind of what to think at this moment. I like them in this matchup today against Robbie Ray at a plus price, but I just don't know in the macro sense where the Braves are sitting with the Phillies leaving the door wide open in that NL East.
Yep, I was just about to say that. It's funny, you'll see certain divisions and neither team really taking advantage, right? But the Braves have won 2 here against the Giants, 2 really good games, 2 great pitching matchups, 1-0 in that first game, 4-3 yesterday. This is a 4-game series, so not trying to avoid the sweep or anything. I would lean towards the Braves to keep it going here as well.
Yeah, I think so. 3.5 games back of the Phillies right now, and there are 2 teams really, really needing a win. You know, my Pirates need a win, but these guys really in the race right now as far as the division title in the NL East.
Yeah, you're right. Even just for that wild card spot. Going to the American League here, Kansas City Royals, Minnesota Twins. The Royals, they've been such a fun team to watch. I know Frank really likes them and roots for them a lot, but they've been kind of sliding as well. Now they've lost 2 here to Minnesota.
They got killed yesterday.
It's kind of a pick. They did get killed yesterday, 13-3. Kind of a pick, 8.5 total. I would lean to the under here. Any thoughts for you on this matchup?
I like under. I like Kansas City as well. Cole Reagan's the lefty going today. He's been their best strikeout artist. All of a sudden, this KC rotation really, really strong. Him, Michael Wacha, Brady Singer. Really a good 3-headed attack at the top of that lineup. Cole Reagans, though, is the strikeout artist of that staff. So I think if there's a game that goes way under, especially after a big-time over day yesterday, it is today with Reagans on the bump. I like Kansas City. Maybe not enough for a play for me, especially with the line being just about even. If you can get Kansas City as a dog, if this line kind of swings the other way, and I'm seeing it's moving some right now, take a look at Kansas City. I wanted to ask you, with your numbers, we talked about the potential of staving off a sweep or going for a longer win streak, how that affects your numbers on your sheet. What about coming off of a big win or a big loss like in this one on both sides?
Yeah, not much. I mean, that kind of just is the feel part of the sports betting, right? So, because my dad always says 80% numbers, 20% science, and meaning like the feel. And so I think you could put that into that 20%. And
makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, too, for a team like Kansas City, so young
Right.
and really not a lot of experience. They've already won, I think, almost 15, 20 more games, maybe not quite that much. They've won more this year already than they did all of last year, and they're going to have their best season in quite some time since that 2015 World Series run this season. So you wonder how a team like that responds, getting blown out by a division rival on the road. It's probably going to be one or the other. You're expecting another big blowout, or they come out swinging right away against an inexperienced starter from Minnesota. I like Kansas City. I definitely like the under. I would wait, especially if you're going to go on that KC side. See if you can get them as a slight dog with late money coming in on Minnesota. This one actually underway here in about a half hour, so we may not be able to get a chance to see that one swing too much.
That is funny. I will say I got one back on Kenny White, who was my guest yesterday, because he did get me with that Dabo Sweeney comment. But I tried to convince him. I tried to talk him out of taking the White Sox again after the Yankees had lost so bad, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you're saying now here with the Royals.
Yeah, and just a tease, we will have a couple of fun graphics making fun of the White Sox and the Yankees on punchlines coming up. So I know Keith Lyle's excited about that.
Let's go to the Texas Rangers and the Boston Red Sox. Another one. Rangers trying to avoid the sweep, but this one I'm not really too fond of jumping in here on Texas. So we've got Red Sox minus 127, 9.5 flat total in this one, Matt.
This one's just kind of gross. Dane Dunning versus Tanner Houck. Nothing really excites me about this pitching matchup. At Fenway, you never know with the offense. I would look over. I've got no play on this one. I'm not a big Dane Dunning guy, and the Rangers really, really have that World Series championship hangover in full effect. They're 10 games under at this point of the year. Well, the Red Sox at 8 games over, surprising everybody.
Yep.
And they are only, I believe the number that I got was 78. They're only 15 games away from officially going over, which might be my only loss in the win total this year, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, if we're going to rate our 2 win totals to start the season, mine's about a D-. I'm giving you about an A- as of right now. We'll see how it pans out. Next game up, Seattle Mariners, Detroit Tigers. Man, George Kirby, he really got lit up yesterday against these Tigers. They won 15-1. Now the Mariners minus 135 on the road, 8 over minus 115. I like Seattle in this one, though. Again,
I'm leaning under.
Okay.
I'm leaning under on this one. A lot of money coming in on Seattle, so it's a popular play. But I like under. Brian Wu going in to start. The Mariners have more quality starts this year than a couple of teams have wins. So they have been really, really relying on the starting pitching, especially because of how bad the offense has been. I like under. I like Seattle. This is an interesting time of the year for Seattle as well. Not huge buyers at the deadline. In fact, they were more sellers than anything. So it's just going to be an interesting end of the season for the Mariners to see how the offense can pick it up. Them and the Pirates are in a very similar situation as far as them being so driven by the starting pitching and really, really hampered by the offense. By the way, there was a scoring change. This was late last night. Originally, Kirby was charged for all 11 runs earned. There was a hit that was changed to an error. He's now only charged for 6 of those 11 earned runs. Just a weird baseball scoring quirk. But that does help out the earned run average for a guy that throws more strikes than anybody.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I saw that
was
11 earned runs. Okay, that's very interesting. And that's a huge change.
Absolutely.
From 11 to 6.
And you'll see managers fight for their guys, especially the starting pitchers, when one error can take off 5 earned runs. You'll see that a lot. I've gotten into it with managers before where they say, hey, change it. I say, I'm just the broadcaster. I can't change anything.
Yeah.
I can implore someone to take a look, but I don't have that much power. I wouldn't be doing what I was doing if I had that much power.
But it's legitimate, right?
Yes. That one, I went back and saw the highlight.
Okay.
It was legit.
Okay.
And that happens maybe once a day across Major League Baseball. You'll see a scoring change. Doesn't always affect the run lines like it did in this situation.
Right.
But, you'll see a scoring change or two just about every day across Major League Baseball after the fact. They are well within their right to do that.
Few more games here on the board. We'll kind of go quickly through them. And we have Geoff Schwartz joining us here in about 5 minutes. Really looking forward to that. I forgot to tease that at the top of the show, which should have been the first
burying
thing
the lead
that I said there. But I did tease this. The Astros here on a nice little 7-game win streak. 1-2 against the Rays as well. Just minus 116 on the road. A little bit of money towards the Rays to avoid the sweep. Total sitting at 8 flat.
Yeah, and they're going up against Zach Littell, who was one of Tampa's trade deadline pickups. Ronel Blanco, who threw the no-hitter earlier this year on the bump for the Astros. You said a 7-game winning streak. You said that does factor into your number a little bit and your reasoning. I'm kind of with you there. I'm going to go the other side. I think Tampa staves off this sweep at home in a game with the lowest total across Major League Baseball today. How about a 7.5 number hanging up there just about everywhere across the board? I like the Rays to stave off that sweep. And the under is going to be interesting. 91% of the money coming in on the under, so that's a very, very popular play with a really solid starting pitching matchup.
I agree. Very good starting pitching matchup here. This is our only difference of opinions here today, but I am going to stick with the Astros to keep
8 games. All right.
Keep that going. New York Yankees, Chicago White Sox kind of teased that as well. White Sox win game 1, 12-2. Yankees came in a little bit too confident there in Chicago. They take back game 2, win 4-1. Now the Yankees minus 230 on the road. Once again, 9.5 total, juice to the under.
I like over. I definitely like over in this one. The Yankees in their last 22 have gone over 17 times. They've scored 10 or more combined runs in 17 of their last 22 games as well. So they have been really hot hitting as of late. They've been giving up a lot of runs. Will Warren making the start for the White Sox tonight. That's a household name, right? He's given up 12 earned runs and two home runs in 9 2/3 innings in the major leagues this year to the Angels, who did most of the damage against him, and the Phillies, who have been sliding. Davis Martin starting for the Yankees. It's going to be just a lot of relief arms tonight, I think. I think both starting pitchers get bounced early. Over 9, this is a play for me.
I like it. And a lot of people are afraid to bet that 9, but, I mean, we see these high-scoring games all the time. For game 1 was 12-2, and we didn't even see the Yankees lineup do anything in that one.
It's the White Sox. You can fade them. It's okay.
Yes. You just brought up the Angels. The Angels are trying to avoid the sweep against the Blue Jays, and this does not a play for me, but makes this number exactly where it should be. Originally, I have the Blue Jays as a minus 130 favorite on the road, but I'm going to stay away from this here. So now it's pretty much a pick 'em and total 9 under minus 120.
Yeah, this is a stay away game for me. Just the Angels, it's just so tough to do anything with the Angels. You never know which team you're going to get on any given night. They're going up against Tyler Anderson, Las Vegas native, Spring Valley High graduate. I live right across the street from there. Up against Jose Barrios, who's been one of my favorite fantasy pitchers for the last couple of years. He's been disappointing over those last couple of years. So live by the sword, die by the sword, as they say. Over 8.5, an intriguing look in this one. This is a stay away for me. I would take a look to the over, maybe, but that's if you're really, really feeling ornery towards the bottom of the board.
We've got 3 more. Matt, I'm going to throw at you. We've got the Washington Nationals, Baltimore Orioles, DJ Hertz on the mound for the Nats. Now, Nats did take game 1, 9-3. And in this one, Orioles minus 155, total 8.5.
And this one, a rivalry game, the two Masson teams in the Beltway series. Yeah, give me Dean Kramer, another former UNLV Rebel, on the hill with the Orioles. I think that the Orioles can go out there tonight and stomp the Nationals after the big-time loss yesterday.
I like it. That would be a lean for me as well. Chicago Cubs and Cleveland Guardians. Guardians take the first 2. A lot of people are really worried about Cleveland, but I think they're going to be okay here. I mean that going into the playoffs and actually making a little bit of a run. Cleveland minus 135, total 8.5.
I mean, that's always been the case, though, with the Guardians.
It is.
But they joke about the power of friendship. That's why they are so successful. And then, Jose Ramirez, one of the more unheralded superstars in today's game. Steven Kwan, Tony Gwynn 2.0, maybe even more so than Luis Arias. They've got a really, really strong top of the lineup. They've got Alex Cobb going today against the sliding Cubs. Jamison Taillon, just been kind of this year. He's a great guy, really dependable piece. You know what you're going to get out of him. Might not always be great, but he's at least consistent. I like the Guardians. Not a play, but a small lean.
Maybe a play on the first 5 under
I like
here with these 2 pitchers. But Cobb really has just made 1 start since coming back. But last but not least, the Oakland Athletics and the New York Mets. If you like the Mets today, minus 179, total 8.5 in this one. Heavy juice to the under, minus 125.
Joey Estes, hard-throwing righty, going for the A's. He's been knocked around a little bit as of late. If you were to play this one, I would look Mets run line or bust. David Peterson's been really, really solid in the rotation for the Mets. The lefty really leading them to some big-time wins. And with the A's getting a dominant performance yesterday from Joe Boyle, I don't know if the starting pitching magic continues. Boyle threw the most pitches, 99 or higher, yesterday in a start this year in Major League Baseball. 39 pitches at 99 plus, surpassing Paul Skeens by a whopping 1. I don't know if the magic continues or not. I'm on the Mets run line.
He just got called up and thrown out there so quickly.
He was ready to go. It helps to be 6'8" and throw 100.
Yeah, one of the hottest pitchers in minor league baseball. We were really keeping an eye on him. So good to see him get
good for Big
that
Joe.
Start yesterday. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, we have Geoff Schwartz on the other side. We're going to talk a lot of NFL and a little bit of college football here. For Matt Neverett, I'm Alex White. Don't go anywhere. Quick break. We'll be back in 3.
From the South Point studio, the perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yes.
I am beautiful.
And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us here on Sports by the Book at the South Point studio. I'm Alex White. We've got a very special guest up next. You know him as a former NFL player, Geoff Schwartz. He also writes for Fox Sports. Very excited about this one. Geoff, how are you doing? Thanks so much for joining me today.
I'm good. I hope you guys are doing well.
And we've got Vinny by the book joining us as well because he's looking forward to this. It's been a long off season, but I've checked some of your articles. You've been keeping up on all the sports, including NBA Finals and then the Olympics. Did you enjoy the Olympics this year?
I did. I mean, Team USA didn't cover very much, but other than that, it was a lot of fun to watch. And I think we all enjoy rooting for our country, but also I just like having sports on during the day. It was nice to just turn the television on and have something to watch. There's a little bit of a withdrawal this week with no football Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and no Olympics to watch. I very much enjoy it.
Jeff, Vinny Magliulo here. We spoke a few years back with Brent Musburger. Good to be back with you, buddy. And I know you're looking forward to the sport that we're all looking forward to now. Yes. The Olympics are over, right? We're able to focus on football upcoming. And I know you're fond of your beloved Ducks, and they look to be. By all accounts, the team to probably win, I'd say the slight favorite along with Ohio State. Even though Ohio State is predicted to be very highly ranked too. I mean, the Ducks having that game at home against Ohio State and going into the Big Ten, probably positioned better than any other team coming into the Big Ten. Your thoughts on this expansion and the Ducks going into that conference?
I hate that we're this good. Like it gives me like hives thinking about everyone wagering on Oregon. I like the gritty underdog story, but the gritty underdog never wins. So I want to be a team that's looked at in this light because guess what? We might like the Cinderella. We might talk about 12-team playoffs going to lead to more teams in and more upsets. None of that's going to happen, right? It's the 4 teams at the top that have the most depth. They're going to be able to win 3 to 4 games and win a championship. And Oregon is one of those 4 teams right now. So it's great to be talked about in that light. We just have to start sort of winning the bigger games. Look, Dan Lanning is 22-5 as a head coach. First-time head coach, right? There's no Kalen DeBoer at Sioux Falls, right? There's no, Urban Meyer started Bowling Green, right? Brian Kelly was at Cincinnati. Saban was at Michigan State. None of that, right? This is his first head coaching job is at a school that is trying to win a championship in Oregon. So he's done a great job, fantastic job. It's now taking that next step now, and they have the roster to do so. There's a lot of expectations. Oregon's expected to win. Get Ohio State at home, as you mentioned. You win that game, you're probably guaranteed to play them or Penn State, or probably not Michigan, but Ohio State or Penn State in a Big Ten championship game, and you'll be in the playoff and go from there. So I'm excited. I like having the expectations, even though it does sort of eat me alive, the idea of like just everyone is picking us to win. But in the end, that's where you want to be if you're rooting for a team in college football.
So let me increase your stress level, Geoff. So we put up a prop here at South Point. Chris Andrews, our director, we put up two teams against the field for the national championship. Obviously, we've got each team individually to win the national championship. But we put up Georgia and Ohio State against the field at Pick'em, minus 110 both sides. Initially, the money came in on the two favorites, on the two teams, on Ohio State and Georgia.
Yeah.
But guess what? Your Ducks are getting a lot of steam. They're in the field. The field's now a 6-5 favorite, $1.20 and even on the other side. So your trepidation level just probably went up based on what you were talking about.
Wouldn't you? So we've been talking about this on our Bear Bets podcast because Chris Felica, my co-host, he bet the Georgia Ohio State side immediately, which I think is a good wager. But if you don't like that side, would you just take the plus money with Oregon or Texas? Like, that's the thing about this, guys. Not a lot of teams can win the championship. Think about this. Okay, I've seen projected sort of playoff bracket, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say Utah, Big 12 champion. They'd be the 4 seed, okay? Because the top 4 seeds now are going to be the conference winners. The loser of the Big 10 will be the 5 seed. So let's just say it's Oregon. So Oregon gets to play Boise State in round 1 and then play Utah. And let's say Utah beats Oregon. Then they have to play Georgia and then Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Sorry, they're not winning all those games.
Right.
There's only 3 or 4 teams in the country. Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, maybe Alabama. I think they're going to be better than people think. Mm-hmm. Who else do we trust to have the depth to win 3 or 4 of those games in a row? So I would take, if you don't like Oregon, if you don't like Ohio State, Georgia, which I think at minus 110 is not a bad wager, I would actually probably lean that direction. You just take Oregon or Texas straight up. No one else is winning the championship.
That's a good point, and I think you're right, Geoff. I mean, right now too, you get the 2 teams at even money. I think the other part of it is though, if you can't narrow it down to one of those 2, like an Oregon or a Texas, and in this case you're laying 6-5, but it'll probably go back and forth to maybe you're laying $1.10 and you're getting everybody else. So that's the decision you have to make too, right? And of course you have to shop, the best price for those teams. I mean, when you look at Ohio State and Georgia, you're lucky if you're going to get 3. Maybe you can find 4-1 somewhere, or Oregon probably 4, maybe 450. So, but to your point, that's why not only shopping for this prop is unique to our property, but if you're looking at the futures, and Bear will tell you the same thing, that you look for the best price there, and that's the play to make for sure.
Looking at those top 4 that you were just giving out, I'm worried about Texas and that SEC schedule, but you feel pretty good about them this year?
Look, I think part of this is sort of, can you get into the postseason, right? It's a little different equation now. It's almost like the NFL where just getting in gives you the chance because the playoff is so much longer now. So if you look at Texas, they have to replace now, running back anyways, and I think they have 2 running backs already hurt for the season. Got to replace 2 wide receivers. Got to replace two D tackles and a suspect secondary that might suffer from not having those defensive linemen there. But their schedule is super tough. Like I think it's at Oklahoma, well, not at Oklahoma, but neutral site Oklahoma, then immediately Georgia. So I have that Georgia game penciled as a loss already. But if you just get in, right? If you get into the dance with the depth they have on their team and the players they have, the playmakers, they have a chance to make that run. Otherwise, again, it's really just 3 teams. It's Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon. I took Georgia to win the championship when I was asked who I think is going to win for that exact reason, just depth and pedigree of winning a lot of these big games. It takes, you have to know how to win these games. There's a reason why sometimes the first year your program makes it into the postseason, Michigan, right? It took them a couple of years. You kind of just don't know how to win those games. And you sort of tweak your roster, you get older players that are more comfortable playing in those moments, and all of a sudden, boom, you go to the next stratosphere. So Georgia's been there before, right? They've done that before. Ohio State somewhat has been there. They've been to a playoff under Ryan Day. But I think it does take a team that understands what they're doing to get through this gauntlet of games that we're going to have in the postseason.
Geoff, along those lines, I mean, it's pretty clear to me what you're saying is it's far more difficult for a Cinderella, quote unquote, right, with this new playoff format with 12 teams in college football than it would be, let's say, in the NCAA tournament, right? I mean, you still have to narrow it down to the top 4 teams, right, especially with a bye.
I think in March Madness, it's not been the case with UConn the last couple of years, but it's not really the best team that wins, right? Again, UConn notwithstanding the last couple of years. It's sort of been like the team with the veteran players, the best point guard. I feel like when you get to college football, it's about depth and talent acquisition. Mm-hmm. If you can accumulate the most talent, the most depth that allows you to withstand injuries, because football is a 100% injury sport. I'm reading a practice report today, the Chiefs' right tackle out with a shoulder injury, might not be out long, but like everyone gets hurt. So who's the next man up? And these schools have the ability to have a next man up mentality. Georgia and Oregon, by the way, and Ohio State, like if the quarterbacks get hurt, not great. They all have 5 stars waiting to play behind them. How many schools have that ability to lose a starting quarterback? I'm not saying that the backups are better, but in theory, they're talented enough to be that good. So that's part of why I look at this season and say the 12-team playoff is great. I love that we'll be talking about who's a playoff team all the way through Thanksgiving. It's great for the sport. Obviously, better games in December to wager on and enjoy and watch as fans. But to me, it doesn't change the equation for who the champion is.
I know this. It's great for our business.
I'm sure it is.
Fantastic
I'm sure
points
it's great
about this 12-team playoff. Great points, and it really is going to come down to depth here.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's really increased, we've talked about how college football has approached the NFL in terms of overall handle, right? When you look at the state now at about $10 billion a year here in Nevada in terms of sports handle, and football accounting for about 60% of that, it's broken down to almost 50-50 between the NFL and college because of the playoff, and now the fact that the playoff has increased. I mean, obviously, every game is now on TV, and we expanded the betting menu to include, every just about every team, including the FCS teams and stuff. But it's been great for us from that perspective because the playoff, those games are bet like NFL playoff games.
Geoff Schwartz
and
joining
everyone's
us
rooting
here.
for sports books, so congratulations. Everyone's rooting for you guys to win, so congrats.
Thank you, Geoff.
Again, find him on the tweets at Geoff Schwartz. You can also find him on Bear Beats Podcast, one of the hosts there. We're going to switch it over to NFL. That's okay with you too. I know that I wasn't expecting that in depth of college football talk, but that was absolutely fantastic. I want to start off with the AFC, and the big conversation is who can take down the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of people are betting on the Bengals because we've seen them beat them before, and then a lot of hype for the Houston Texans again. Which AFC team are you most high on this year?
Well, look, I'm a Chiefs fan. The Bengals worry me the most because they've beaten them, and that obviously is something important to look at here, right? But the health of Burrow, if he stays healthy, the team is very talented. The offensive line, I think, has improved enough to play Kansas City, and they've gone to Arrowhead and won. I mean, like they've won these big games where other teams just can't seem to win, right? I mean, Buffalo can't seem to beat Kansas City in the postseason. Baltimore can't seem to do it. The only team that can do it right now is the Bengals. So to me, as a fan, I'm worried about the Bengals. The other team I'd be worried about, the Browns are really good. They just need Watson to play a little bit above average. Like if he ends the season as the 12th best quarterback, the Browns are winning 11 or 12 games. They're a good football team. And I think they would worry me if Watson is playing well come postseason time, because they can win in the trenches, offensive defensive line, which you need to have in the postseason, right, to be able to affect the quarterback. And they're going to be able to run the football, which you need if the weather is bad, right, in Kansas City for a playoff game, in Cleveland for a playoff game. So I'm not saying that the Browns are going to win the AFC, but if Watson is good, they would concern me. Another team is the Jets. Like, I don't know what to make of the Jets. I really don't. It feels like either a 12-5 team or 5-12 team, like nowhere in between with some of the turmoil they've had there. But if the Jets are playing well, if they're playing like they should with the talent they have in their roster, and Aaron Rodgers is playing well, I know he has not had the playoff success in Green Bay that they really wanted the last couple of years, but nonetheless, they're going to be formidable in the postseason. The AFC is going to be very hard this year. I just mentioned Baltimore and the Chiefs, obviously, and the Texans and the Ravens and the Browns and the Jets. It's a tough conference to win. So there'll be a lot of competitors trying to knock the Chiefs off.
I'm glad you brought up the Cleveland Browns. That is by far one of the best divisions that we have in the NFL. I mean, the Ravens, they were right there last year, lost to the Chiefs, of course, the Bengals, if Joe Burrow is healthy. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers have 2 new quarterbacks to try out and see which works for them. This has to be a multi-playoff division, right? Multiple teams.
I took Browns plus 600 to win the division. I thought it was a good number for a team I obviously seem to like a lot. The division is interesting, right? Because it can be boiled down sometimes to as simple as who's the best quarterback in the division. Look at division winners every year. About 7 of 8 best quarterback in the division. And in the AFC North, again, it can be Joe Burrow in a given season. It can be Lamar we saw last season. It can be Deshaun Watson if he plays much better. It's not going to be Pittsburgh. And sorry, Steeler fans. Like Wilson and Fields is not good enough. I mean, at best, you're 3rd in the division. At worst, probably you're 4th, which means you're going to be out of the playoffs. I like Mike Tomlin. I like what the Steelers do, but thinking they're going to continue this 500 streak to me is ludicrous with the division they play and the quarterbacks they have. But again, I mean, I think who emerges best quarterback? The Ravens have serious offensive line questions, right? They have a left tackle that's chronically hurt. They're new at left guard. They're new at right guard. They're new at right tackle. So I think there's some concern there offensively for me with them. So I do think it'll be either the Bengals or the Browns.
Geoff, I love your points. By the way, just to give you an update on some of these Super Bowl future prices here at South Point. So Cincinnati, 12-1. Of course, they've got a very favorable schedule when you look at it compared to the other team. Look at the Steelers. But that last third of the season for the Steelers, that schedule is an absolute bear. So Cincinnati 12. The Jets 30. They got support all season, all summer long. The Steelers at 20, and of course, if they get Ayuk, which I think is looks like a deal's in place, but yet the Niners still want him. But I think it looks like if he does go, it's probably going to be to the Steelers. Helps them immensely. And then the Browns, and great price, Geoff, for the division there, especially in that competitive division, 45-1. And not as much, we got more interest last year. I was a little curious. I thought there would be more support for the Browns, especially with Watson being there from the beginning. I thought there would be more activity on the Browns, and maybe we'll see that as we move through the summer and these preseason games. But I want to ask you, too, Geoff, about the Texans, 15-1. Yeah. Now, this is a team, too, that, they surprised a lot of folks last year. Had a good draft. I think they've improved their team between the draft and free agency. They're at 15-1, but this year's schedule is much more difficult because of their success last year. They've got a more challenging schedule. From a player's perspective, and you being an NFL veteran, what's the great equalizer about film? When you look at Stroud and you look at this team and what they're going to face from last year's success to this year's season with an upgraded schedule.
Well, they're not going to catch anyone by surprise, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're a good football team, teams around the league study you in the offseason. They study everyone, but they put more attention on the Texans, on the Chiefs, because you have to try to stop those teams. You see teams around the NFL that are competing with the Chiefs, they build their rosters to try to beat the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. It's what they do, right? More defensive backs, more pass rushers. You need those anyways, but specifically to try to knock down Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the Chiefs receivers. So people are going to look at the Texans and think, how can we exploit what they do? But I think your point is very well taken. Their roster building has been fantastic. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to have both things, right? You have to find the quarterback, which they did. And then when he's cheap, you need to find players you can bring in that are veterans around it because you have the money to do so. The opposite's the Chiefs, right? Where you have Mahomes, you pay Mahomes, and then you got to draft really well. But they've done both things, right? Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter, they drafted Will Anderson, they drafted, obviously, Stroud. They just have good football players. And so I don't think we're going to see much of a drop-off other than you're right. Their schedule is much tougher as a first-place team. But you have to look at sort of, if we think the Chiefs are going to be the best in the AFC, which I don't know if they're going to be the 1 or 2 seeder, I don't really know exactly. But let's just say it runs through Kansas City. Which of these teams is going into Kansas City and beating them in Arrowhead in late January? And I just don't know if the Texans are quite ready for that task yet. We know the Ravens are. We know the Bengals are. The Browns, as I mentioned, like the physicality of the way they play, I think translates well to that type of game. I'm not sure the Texans are quite ready for that yet. Like winning in air. The Chiefs have lost 2 home playoff games under Mahomes, both overtime by 3 points to Joe Burrow and Tom Brady. So like that's my sort of the equation I look at. It's like if you have to go to Kansas City and win, are you ready as a team to do that? And I'm not sure the Texans are quite there. Now, the Chiefs aren't in the AFC Championship game, doesn't matter. But I think we just assume at this point they're going to be there. They've been there every year under Mahomes, and unless obviously injuries happen. So I'm not sure the Texans are quite ready for that yet.
Great points. And I want to ask you this because you played on the O-line, protecting the quarterback. You've brought up the quarterbacks a lot, kind of looking at divisions. Who's the best quarterback in that division? I put a lot of stock into defenses, and I want your opinion on that. I mean, you brought up 2 great defenses already, though. Cleveland Browns, saw them even better at home than on the road, though. And then you brought up the Jets. So how much do you really put into the defense? And then I guess we're using Mahomes. And who could take the best quarterbacks or handle the best quarterbacks?
Look, I think for defense to win a championship, all you need is if your quarterback's good, right, is just above average. Like you don't need elite. You don't now. The Chiefs last year needed a lead because their offense wasn't as good. So you have to find a mix, right? But if Aaron Rodgers is as good as we think he can play this year, the Jets just need like a top 10 defense, just 10. That's all they need. If another team is offensively roaring, they just need their defense to be 10. Like Kansas City, when their offense is good, they don't need their defense to be the best in the NFL. Just be 10th. Just be 12th. Like that's all you need. So to me, you look at what the Jets can do defensively. Yeah, they're good on defense. But just be around that area. You don't have to be the best in the NFL. Obviously, the worst is terrible. But if you're just in that range, 8 to 12, and your offense is number 5, you're good enough to win a Super Bowl with that equation in sort of the way we play football now. And that's the way I look at defense. And defense, more than offense, tends to have more regression year to year, where if you have a good quarterback, you're basically kind of just flatlined as an offense in your sort of EPA and sort of advanced stats. Defense tend to have more of an up and down in a given year. Guys leave the roster. Some guys aren't as productive. Injuries take a big toll. But offensively, because it's so quarterback driven, we find that those offenses sort of stay the same every year. So that's why defense, to me, again, it can be a variable each year, sort of is up and down.
Great answer.
Geoff, one more for me, and again, we've got now just 3 preseason games. I mean, put the Hall of Fame game aside. What is Geoff Schwartz, former NFL player? Which of the games in the preseason are the most important, and what do you look for? For me, it's kind of the second game from our side of the counter. But for you, as a former player, what are you looking at, especially here in week 2? And is week 2 the most important one?
As a player or as someone who wagers on the games?
How about both? Give both perspectives.
Okay, well,
start with the player.
It's a lot different. It's a lot different now because, there's a lot of teams. I was doing some research today on some wagering, and I mean, there are teams that just won't play their starters. I look at the Lions, Chiefs. Like Jared Goff's just not going to play. He hasn't played, I think, in preseason with Dan Campbell. I don't expect him to play this weekend. Where Kansas City is going to play their starters. They always have. Then Mahomes might get 2 or 3 drives, or 3 hit 3 last year. And in game 2 in this new system, 3 games, the Chiefs have won game 2 by 7 points or more because they care. Like they game plan this week, like it's a regular season week. They put a lot of preparation. Some teams don't do that. So it's really difficult, I think, in each given game to look at like who cares, who doesn't care, who's trying hard, who's playing their ones. So to me, it makes it difficult to wager on the preseason. If you know ahead of time, one team's playing their ones or they're taking it more seriously and one team's not, I think you'd wager on the team that sort of cares about the game more. And the last thing I've noticed about the preseason from a gambling perspective is coaches. Defensive coaches tend to just do much better either straight up or against the spread. And I'm putting Harbaugh as like a non-offensive coach essentially in that because they care about like physicality and toughness and finish and like we're going to win every single drive. And offensive coaches just don't care. They're like they want to get their work in on offense. They're working on specific things like. They're not as intense about it. I mean, Sean McDermott, the Bills got blown out. Well, he's like, my heart rate was through the roof during the game. I'm like, buddy, it's a preseason, dude. Like, you wouldn't hear Andy Reid say that. He'd be like, shucks, we lost the game. We'll get them next week. Like the Bills +4, I like because I think the Bills are going to come out this week and try to kick butt because McDermott was angry at them for the way they played in game 1. So that's where I look at the preseason from a gambling kind of angle. As a player, it's different, man. These guys don't play it all anymore. So it's hard to judge, I think, sometimes what we see from a sort of an X's and O's because you just don't know. It's a lot of ones versus twos.
Great points, Jeff. And by the way, just the Chiefs from 4 on the opener up to 6.5, even with the offensive line injuries they've got. So they're up to 6.5 for this Saturday's game. And the Steelers actually getting some action against the Bills this week, but I suspect we'll see some take on the Bills plus the 4.
Maybe a Tomlin bet as well. Before we let you go, which I know we've taken a lot of your time and we really appreciate you, we have to hit on the NFC just a little bit. I mean, it's those teams, right? The Niners, the Lions, the Eagles have made some moves. Who do you like, or a couple teams that you like from the NFC?
The NFC feels pretty simple, right? It's like it's Niners if they can stay healthy. The McCaffrey injury worries me because I don't like hearing lower body injuries in some of these skill guys in training camp. And I think Ayuk seems like they're going to stay. They haven't traded him yet. I think he's going to re-sign, is my guess. But that's been a lot of twists and turns. Their offensive line, a little bit of a question mark, but some of the young guys I think will end up starting for them. That'll be good. It's the Eagles too, right? Look, good team, good roster. I like the coaching changes they made. And the Lions. I mean, those are the teams. Like the Cowboys, how many years are we going to be like, the Cowboys can do it? They can't. They haven't shown it yet. I'd be shocked if they get to an NFC Championship game. Outside of that, maybe Green Bay, young team last year, won a playoff game, a lot of confidence moving forward. But I don't really see anyone else. The other team that I'm intrigued with is the Rams. Their offensive line's a wreck right now. That really does concern me because you want to keep Stafford upright as much as possible. They have to replace Donald, but they got those 2 D tackles in the draft. The Rams are interesting. They win a lot of games when McVay and Stafford are together. And they play the Niners well every year. So that to me feels like maybe the one team out of that cluster of teams at the top that has a run to be a Super Bowl team.
Fantastic stuff. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Geoff Schwartz. Everyone, you can follow him on Twitter at Geoff Schwartz, and you can also find his podcast with Chris Felica, and that is Bear Beats Podcast. Geoff, thank you so much.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, that does it for us. What a great show. Matt Neverett, top of the show. We went through all baseball games. We appreciate him so much. Vinny by the Book stops in to join me for that great interview. If you missed anything, you can find it here on our YouTube channel. Again, please follow our social media pages. We'll throw that graphic up one more time. You can find us on almost every social media platform at Sports by the Book. And then on Instagram, you can find us at Sports by the Book LB. We appreciate you jumping in with us. We will be back tomorrow again, 9 a.m. Jeff Parles will be here. We're going to make sure of it. He'll be here, right, Vinny?
He'll be here.
Jeff Parles will be here with myself from 9 to 9:30. Stick around. Find us on Punchlines FN for a great episode of Punchlines. Vinny, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good to be with you, Alex.
We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.